What's up, friendos, and welcome into Fantasy Pros Week 12 Fantasy Impact. I'm Chris Welsh, who you can find on Twitter at @IsOfTheWelsh. That is Scott Bogman on Twitter, Bogman Sports. No Deepak Chona. Deepak is not here. He's high in the sky, trapped on a plane. It's Deepak on a plane, and we just don't have him. But what we do have are his injury notes. So we will still have some of those injury notes and all the chaos. We are broadcasting live on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasypros. If you enjoy the live watching, usually around 7:45 p.m. Eastern, for all you out there, if you want to join on there. Obviously, the podcast people, hello, and thank you for subscribing if you've already done so on your podcast app and hanging out with us. We also happen to be live streaming right during overtime, the final late game going on as the Bills and Eagles have not settled, but we've settled everything else, Bogman. We are winding down towards the end of week 12, which kind of going out in a whimper a little bit. The game's kind of stunk. Scott Hansen got fled out of the studio.
Dude, I thought that alarm was one of my neighbors for the longest time. Because I kind of had the volume low. I was concentrating on putting our notes together for this. So I'm like, where is that alarm coming from? And then I read on Twitter that it was from the Red Zone channel.
Have we gotten confirmation? Is he okay?
He finished the show like he was reading highlights while the thing was going off.
All right. Because I kept tuning in and he wasn't there. So just a national treasure. We must protect Scott Hansen at all costs. Like we also would like to protect Deepak, but we just couldn't get Deepak here. But thank you guys for hanging out with us. So it's just little Bogman and the Welsh action for you.
And I disagree with you. I think the games were amazing today.
Well, of course you do.
Great week. I think everyone should be happy with everything that happened. I think it was outstanding.
Well, I mean, I got to eat crow too. I couldn't have sounded more stupid. It's the stupidest, dumberer that I have been all week. And I kind of called it on the pre-game show. So I'll eat crow in a little bit for just a bad fantasy take, bad fantasy process that happened out there. But a lot of other things did work out, and we did hit plenty of parlays and stuff like that. Before we get into the action, let's get to just a tiny bit of business. How about some winning business here? And let me get down to it. How about a trophy smack winner? The winner of our glorious 36-inch fantasy championship trophy, courtesy of Trophy Smack, is Chris Latimer. Please get in touch, Chris, with our customer service agents at mailbag@fantasypros.com with your mailing address and proof of your subscription to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel, and we will get that trophy shipped out to you. Totally no coincidence, a Chris on Chris gift. Chris Latimer, you are the winner. Congratulations, and maybe you'll keep the streak alive. I don't know, but we've had the streak of winners in our chat, which has been a lot of fun. So thank you to Trophy Smack, and guess what? All Chris had to do was subscribe to the channel and make a comment, and he was hooked up. It's a great deal. That's the type of cool stuff that we do for you, and we are not done. How about a big score this week? You have a chance to take home one of the best running backs in the NFL's autographed jersey from Pristine Auction, courtesy of Betting Pros right there, Jonathan Taylor. You want to win it? Jonathan Taylor, Colts autographed jersey, courtesy of Betting Pros. All you got to do is comment and subscribe, because Betting Pros is the place where you can bet smarter, not harder. And this is just super easy. We'll be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure you turn on those notifications so you can be alerted when new episodes are up and claim your prize. That is it. Autographed Jonathan Taylor jersey, hopefully coming your way, so drop it below. And that's actually the cool thing too for all you podcast listeners out there. Make sure you're getting on the live streams, because you can win some cool stuff, and they're real people. They're real boys and girls out there, because we actually get to see them win, and it's cool to do that in the chat. All right, so Bogman, little bit different this week because we do not have Deepak in action, but we do have injuries and we do have some of the reports. So I'm going to bring this up here. And Deepak was nice enough to give us a little breakdown. So I'm going to read off some of these breakdowns. Yep. And as you can see on the graphic right here, we are going to start with Chris Olave. Concussion protocol. He said, we've recently seen a few players clear that in just 1 week, but in the vast majority of cases, players miss 1 week and return the following. Wide receivers typically return immediately to their pre-injury production, and target count. So there's a positive right there in Chris Olave. So probably nothing too crazy to be worried about, correct?
Yeah. I mean, and we've seen, I think 2 players, which is more than one ever since concussion protocols have been locked up a little bit harsher, return without having to face, missing a game. So there's a potential for Chris Olave to come back. But with him and Rashid Shaheed down, if you're like wide receiver desperate, it's A.T. Perry, it's Lynn Bowden, Keith Kirkwood, maybe someone up off the practice squad this week. It's thin picking.
A.T. Perry would be good. By the way, Deepak did have a note, as you saw in there. Rashid Shaheed, the mechanism on this one suggests a mild quad strain. These cost wide receivers in average about 1 to 2 weeks. We'll find out a lot by the timing of his return to practice. So that is
I saw
there.
I saw Dr. Chow, who you do a show with, talking about the it's bad for burners. Those thigh bruises are bad for burners like Shaheed. So
yeah, Joe does a show with. I edit. I'm the pretty editor of the Dr. Chow shows. So
yes, you're right.
Also up on the injury reports, you can see Demario Douglas reportedly avoided concussion protocol, likely was just pulled for precautionary evaluation, likely returning in week 13, but he has been again 6 catches, nothing crazy because that offense stinks. Amari Cooper took a big hit in the midsection area, likely getting x-rays in the locker room right now. This was as he was written, as Deepak wrote this. If he ends up having broken ribs, the average timeline is about 2 weeks to return, but 4 to return to pre-injury productivity. If he avoids any rib fractures, he'll lean towards him playing in week 13, but the data would suggest that a moderate production dip of around 15%. So either way, that's not really great.
No, it's bad, and it's not good because DTR also got hurt, who, I know you're about to talk about that particular injury.
Well, just real quick, concussion protocol.
Yeah.
And similar as what we talked about before, most likely the outcome would be to miss week 13, return week 14, fully good to go. But I will just note, as much as like it has been uncommon for players to break the 1 week thing, we have seen it multiple times now this season. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know that the quarterback makes that big of a difference for Amari Cooper, right? Because it's just a step down from Watson, whoever it is. Walker's been bad. DTR hasn't been passing the ball very well, and that Cleveland offense is rough right now. So there's no reason to. I mean, I guess there is a little urgency to rush Cooper back if he can come back, but I would expect him to miss a week. We'll see.
Yeah. So there you go. Those are the injury breakdowns you guys want to check out. Deepak, I think, has already put out some tweets. So make sure you follow him at SportMD Analysis or SportsMed Analytics, because we got you covered here at Fantasy Pros with all of the pros. Speaking of, how about some pro headlines? That's right. We're going to our Miller Lite segment where we're breaking down the top headlines of the day all the way until we find out here's to what's next. The top headline: quarterbacks, running back, wide receiver, tight end. No commercial this week, Bogman. So why don't you kick us off? Because I believe we're going quarterback to start our headlines of the day.
How about terrific Trevor tames Texans? I tripped over the starting bullet. Today, Junior. Terrific Trevor tames Texans. Second game this season with over 300 yards passing for Trevor Lawrence. A 23 of 38, 364 yards, a touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. I mean, look, Josh Allen is going to end up outscoring him. He's had a huge day here, of course, but Trevor Lawrence is putting it together. And this is going to be one of those guys that, like, the people that gave up early on their fantasy season are not going to remember that Trevor had this great end if he puts it together. And it seems like he really is. And him and Ridley are coming together. So really excited to see Trevor Lawrence putting it together.
There was a really good dynasty buy opportunity I want to point out. Like, I'm not saying it's still not kind of ish there, but like the really good opportunity was a couple weeks back, and the last 2 weeks have really decimated that and kind of destroyed that. So headline number 2 is my bad. This is my bad. So talked
That's
a lot
just
about
the headline. It's Welsh's bad.
Well, my bad. We got asked a lot about Kyren Williams, and between coming back from the injury, the not full workload, and Royce Freeman, also Royce Freeman being productive, and then finally Cooper Kupp coming back against a Cardinals defense that, you can run against him, but you can throw against him. I just wasn't sold that Kyren Williams was going to have this big output, but I think like Depro was, so hat tip to them. But big, dumb idiot I am, because Bogman, your RB headline of the week.
Kyren firing on all cylinders here. Look, 16 for 143 on the ground.
Hello.
And 6 for 61 with 2 of Matt Stafford's 4 passing touchdowns. Went to Kyren. And look, this was big, huge chunk plays on like every play. I don't remember seeing Kyren take the ball and not get at least 7 yards one time this game. It was ridiculous. Every time I looked up, of course, I was watching on the red zone at that point, so they're more showing his big plays. But good Lord, it was like every time he touched the ball, he was picking up chunks, and the cornerbacks and safeties were having to tackle him. It was really a pathetic defensive showing for the Cardinals this week.
All right, number 3, wide receiver headline. So I believe we're going tight end for the big headline of the week. So your wide receiver headline.
Evans eats 9 targets, 6 catches, 70 yards, and 2 scores for Mike Evans. Huge week for him. Glad to see him getting involved, even though Baker is trash right now and he's banged up. I don't think he's going to make it to the finish line. He left and came back in this game on the tush push. He kind of I think he sprained his knee or something, or his ankle, and he went out for a couple plays. Trask came in, but he runs so much. He's trying to do too much. Baker is. He's not going to make it, but Evans is looking great. Rashad White looking solid. So that offense is at least trying to bail out the defense.
Evans made one of the most insane video game-like catches where I've never seen a human being. He jumped up at full length. He was up in the air and the ball hadn't got there. And he somehow got more. He was able to stay in the air and catch the ball. He completely misjumped the ball, but he had that hang time. It was an awesome catch.
It's just because he's 11 feet tall. So
something like, he's just an incredible athlete. He really is. But that is going to lead us to our Here's to What's Next headline of the day, brought to you by Miller Lite. Bogman, who is it?
Freiermuth. Pat has his most yards and catches, and the Steelers go over 400 yards for the first time in 58 games, the first week after they fire Matt Canada. I wonder what the problem was. I wonder what the issue was. Sometimes the public is right. I know we overreact and all of that stuff, but sometimes the public is right. Matt Canada gone, Steelers offense clicking again, and Freiermuth was the biggest beneficiary, and Najee was a big beneficiary as well. But looks like Pat Freiermuth might be a decent start moving forward in this new offense.
Tight end 8?
Mike Sullivan.
Moving forward?
I would say at least top 10. He's at least a tight end 1 moving forward in my eyes. So
okay, that's a very good sign. And also a good sign is Miller Lite, because with a Miller Lite in your hand, fall doesn't just taste great. It tastes like Miller time. And winter doesn't just taste great. It tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/FantasyPros. Your door can be Freiermuth. Miller Lite can be Kenny Pickett. Bang, bang, there's a connection. That's MillerLite.com/FantasyPros, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Let's get to some games. Let's talk about some game action. You did already mention Trevor here, and the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Houston Texans 24-21. A lot of controversy around that Tank Dell catch, which was a catch and took away props from a lot of people. It was a catch. It was a catch. But Jacksonville held out against Houston 24-21.
Yeah, it was a great game. And like I said before, the Trevor Lawrence reawakening continues with his great line. Tough go for ETN between the tackles. He had 56 yards rushing and 30 yards receiving. So 86 yards total is not bad.
He got knocked out for a little bit in the game, too.
He
and
did.
Dearness broke a big one.
He did, but that was on 24 touches, 20 for 56. Just Texans run D playing tough today. Kirk, 7 targets, 4 catches, 89 yards. Ridley, 5 catches, 89 and a score. Luke Farrell, who is only there because, Urban Meyer drafted him in that draft class, actually had 55 yards receiving. But we saw Nico Collins get his first 100-yard game since October 1st against Pittsburgh. Tank Dell did end up scoring a touchdown. Schultz only 1 catch for 2 yards. That was a tough look. But Stroud over 300 again. Singletary was okay in yards, didn't score, and Pierce was awful. So that's kind of the status quo of what's happening with these teams. And we're really locking in. There's not too many surprises now, and free agent pickups are getting thinner too. So It's we've seen these offenses a bunch, and we know who has the potential to break out for the most part.
I do think there was a little bit of a confirmation of like, this is still Singletary over Pierce. Like maybe it'll adjust, but Singletary did still have 12 touches to 6 for Pierce. And Singletary, as far as the receiving side, looked pretty good, but this is a passing game for them. So Singletary might still be the play. Tank Dell is the explosive guy. And in week 13, Denver is going to Houston. Cincinnati has got Jacksonville on Monday Night Football. Your Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cincinnati Bengals 16-10. It wasn't pretty, and we saw a lot of Najee Harris, and I wanted Jaylen Warren more involved. That would have been really fantastic. Early. Yeah, he did. But talk to us about some of the fantasy takes. And by the way, maybe an all-time, I give Mike Tomlin credit because of all-time reactions that you can have of justifying to just cut a player on the spot was that fumble of Jaylen Warren, where Deontay Johnson, it is one of the single most embarrassing plays of an NFL player where he didn't try to block. He didn't pay attention. The fumble went past him. He looked at it, didn't do anything, didn't change. It was the biggest no hustle play. That he stayed in the game either speaks to the lack of talent the team has or the trust or the I don't know what it was. I've never seen a player show less heart and hustle than what Deontay Johnson did. It was embarrassing.
I'm going to try to limit what I say here about Deontay Johnson because I don't want to be kicked off the air permanently, but I'm done. I've had enough. I've seen enough of this guy. He's starting fights in the locker room. He started
biggest crybaby in the NFL
ever, maybe ever in the NFL. Cried about the refs earlier. Minka Fitzpatrick gets in a fist fight with him, and he's injured. And one of your best players, you get in a fist fight with him in the locker room. Punched Trubisky at halftime last year. The biggest diva crybaby maybe ever in the NFL. I am so sick of this dude. I'm freaking out here. But anyway, look, there's a lot to take away from this game. Canada lists offense, gets 421 yards. Once again, first time in 58 games, second longest streak in NFL history for a team to not have 400 yards of offense, I believe is what they said. And the time of possession here was crazy because not only did we have improvements in the Steelers, Pickett, 278 yards, most passing yards this season. Freiermuth, most catches and yards he's ever had in a game. Pickens was a little banged up. He's questionable coming in. He played through injury. Warren fumbled, and Najee looked great, 15 for 99 and the score. He was running harder. So not only is it like, wow, there are now viable pieces in Pittsburgh, but also Jake Browning looked terrible. I want to give him a couple more weeks, but they got Jacksonville on Monday night next week. That is going to be a tough game because we just saw Jacksonville's defense play against one of the best offenses in the league. And, they didn't hold them, but they did stop them from scoring many points. So I just don't know how they're going to get back on track here. I mean, Mixon had 8 rushes for 16 yards. The time of possession in this game was 37 minutes to 22 and change for Cincinnati. So Browning has to get really good quickly. The biggest catch for Jamar Chase was off a tip pass that was almost picked. Jamar Chase pulled it out of the air and went 31, and that was the longest pass of the day. Their offense looks real bad right now. Maybe the Steelers defense is playing great, but their offense looks really, really bad because that O-line is still bad, and now you don't have Burrow to bail you out.
One of the takeaways I'm just going to throw in at all this is the Canada firing also did kind of answer negatively, a little bit negatively of what we wanted, where it was like, oh my gosh, we are going to it's time to unleash Jaylen Warren. That wasn't the case. They used Najee Harris in some big spots. This is just going to be,
I thought it was going to be, and I was listening to a couple of my Steelers podcasts, and both of them also said, look, I think it's going to be, Najee starts, but Warren gets the carries. It wasn't the case. Najee started. And I do think maybe Warren would have got more carries if he didn't fumble early. That was the Deontay Johnson play where he wasn't doing anything because Tomlin hates fumbling. But, I think it's still going to be 60-40 in Najee's favor.
It's amazing that Tomlin puts more weight into fumbles than not trying and not hustling on your team. But, what can you say? What can you say at the end of the day? But I just don't know if we're going to get the unleashed Jaylen Warren moving forward. Won't. Just something to kind of take with you. Arizona is at Pittsburgh in week 13, and Cincinnati is in Jacksonville on Monday Night Football, as I mentioned. My friends, can you even believe we're still sitting here watching this amazing overtime game in week 12? And it just makes me think, I cannot understand how we got to this point in the NFL season. And the most important thing is we've got to make every second count. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can make the most of every game day. Bet on your favorite teams for a shot at winning big bucks. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting 5 on any matchup. Be it week 13 early lines, division champs, or Super Bowl winners, and a million other things, DK has got you covered. So get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the app now and use code FANTASYPROS. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for just betting $5 on the NFL. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code FANTASYPROS. The crown is yours. And the crown is the Philadelphia Eagles, as they just won in overtime. I didn't see the touchdown because I was doing the
Jalen Hurts run.
And Bogman and I are happy because we just survived another week in this big league survivor we had, taking the Eagles here. What a game. So there you go. Jalen Hurts, a little update to everybody who knows. You guys are all listening in the future if you're on the podcast. All right, next game up, Tennessee. They beat Carolina 17-10. There's a lot in this. We saw a lot more Derrick Henry as we should have. And I'll tell you, just as another aside, I cannot believe the disappearing job Adam Thielen just put down. He absolutely vanished from this game. Bryce Young looks awful.
It's not Bryce Young. Look,
he
doesn't look good.
Just looks awful, but like
it won't work.
This team is awful, and it's really hard to watch.
I think the Panthers have the worst offensive line I've ever seen, and I know it's people say that about their team. I have said that plenty of times against the Steelers, but I really do think this Panthers O-line may be one of the worst put together. It's awful. Bryce Young has no time. Did you see Bryce Young's parents in the stands wearing Alabama gear? Like, they won't even wear Carolina Panthers gear. It's very strange. So Frank Reich's terrible head coach. Nothing is getting done here.
So they almost weren't able to wear that Alabama gear. They got lucky if they were able to wear that.
Well, after next week, it'd probably be a tough wear. But Mingo finally got involved here, which was great. But like you said, the Panthers just have nothing. And look, the Titans didn't have much either. Derrick Henry, he scored twice, but outside of that, he did not have a good game. 18 rushes for 76 is not great. Spears only had 3 touches in this game. So like we've said, you give the ball to Derrick Henry and you win the game. And that's what they did against a bad team in the Panthers. So, this was a way for them to sneak it out. Okonkwo got involved a little bit more, but you are not depending on anyone in Tennessee that isn't named Derrick Henry. If you want to throw Hopkins out as a wide receiver 3 or flex, fine, but you're not depending on anybody else in Tennessee. And in Carolina, Chuba Hubbard might be a guy that you want to put out there because he can score some touchdowns. He did here, but there is not another Panther I want to start. I don't want to start Adam Thielen because this line looks bad and it's only getting worse. It's been terrible.
It's inconsistent, and the Colts are going to be facing off against Indianapolis next week with Carolina at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay you can throw against, but who the hell are they going to throw to? Might be a comeback for Thielen, but if it doesn't work there, it's never going to happen. Atlanta, they beat New Orleans 23-15. Thank you, Bijan Robinson, for making me a smart man with my Bijan Robinson had not hit his receiving yards prop 4 straight weeks. I played it this week. He did it in 1 catch. Bijan got back in the action with 2 scores, even though the Falcons were up to some of the same old things that they were. But we obviously talked about a lot about the injuries and just super inconsistent Saints team. But what do you want to add to Falcons beating the Saints 23-15?
Yeah, Ritter was okay. 2 picks. He's so bad. So for Ritter, this is fine. 91 yards for London. Only his fourth game over 55 yards. Pitts had 22 yards. It's all Bijan. You can't really do anything with any other Falcons at this point. If you want to fire up London, I don't know. What would you say, Welsh? Do you feel more confident in Drake London, or I guess you will? How much more confident are you in Drake London from a week-to-week basis than Hopkins?
I don't know. I think they're kind of similar.
10% maybe?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Like, Hopkins is the bigger, like, playmaking type of guy. But you know what? London, if you can get the ball in his general vicinity, he makes plays. The problem is just Ritter still makes boneheaded decisions, and they have not figured out the proper scheming of like play action and stuff. Yeah, exactly. But I think London is super talented. If London were on like the Colts, I would like London more than I would like DeAndre Hopkins.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, you get him. I just think you get London in most places and he would be much better. But, this is where he is for the Saints. I mean, 300 yards from Derek Carr again, which is nice, but no touchdowns. Kamara had 109 total yards, which is what you want from him. Olave was great before the concussion, but they're going to be, they may be down 2 wide receivers this week. So it's Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave if he's up, Shaheed for like a deeper play. We do have a Bipocalypse coming up, I think, next week as well. So, maybe A.T. Perry is going to be the guy, but it's the regular guys in New Orleans too. It's maybe Derek Carr in the Superflex League, Kamara. Taysom Hill has had a couple down weeks. I don't know if you want to start him anymore. And maybe A.T. Perry if both the wide receivers are down. So we'll see.
Yep. And we've got Detroit at New Orleans with Atlanta at the Jets in week 13. I want to tell you guys about this. This is really, really cool. Everyone has someone or someone's they're difficult to shop for. Sadly, Christmas usually ends for that person with like boring old presents. But if you're looking to up your gift giving game this year, Skylight Frame is the answer. Skylight is a touchscreen photo frame that you can send photos to straight from your phone, and they appear in seconds. I'll actually show you. I'm not going to show you the whole thing here, but like this app right here, I've got photos. Look at this. This is a picture of Bogman and I right here that goes straight to the frame. It was as easy as you could possibly imagine. You can even preload photos before the box is open. So when it's unwrapped and plugged in, your most cherished memories will also appear for the person. The perfect gift for everybody. It is so easy. It takes less than 60 seconds to set up. I did this myself. I knew nothing about how it was going to go. I plugged it in, and it is effortless in getting the photos in. The app, you literally hit add and bam. Or even cooler, and this is what I think is amazing, you get a unique email address where you can send photos to your frame, but you could also have loved ones send you photos at any time. A gift for others and a gift for yourself and your family. Use that unique. I gave the slightest thought of giving my address out, but I'm not stupid. It's something I could do. Unique address to send. I'm just telling you, it's a lot of fun. They look gorgeous. It's beautiful. And as a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $15 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go skylightframe.com/fantasy. To get $15 off your purchase of a Skylight Frame, just go skylightframe.com/fantasy. That's skylightframe.com/fantasy. And get $15 off a Skylight Frame at skylightframe.com/fantasy. It's beautiful. It's fun. You know what? We do another read for it. I'm going to bring one and I'll show you how it works here. It's very cool. And your family will be incredibly impressed with what you can do with technology. All right. Next game up here. Indianapolis. They beat the Bucs 27-20. I didn't get the Josh Downs game like I thought I was going to.
13 targets, by the way.
But he had 13 targets, so it wanted to be there. I did smack my Rachaad White rushing yard prop, even though he was a little bit questionable coming in. What do you got on this bad boy?
Colts running back set the tone. Now, look, we have seen JT 15 for 91 and 2 is great, but I mean, he had big runs in the fourth against a tired defense. Zach Moss had 8 for 55. So look, they have been sliding it more towards JT. And I think that is the game plan moving forward. But if he's ineffective, Moss is going to get some chances. And he got some chances here and he played well. So does that mean that maybe he's going to be in a little bit more? I think next week he probably will be in a little bit more than he has been the previous 2 or 3 weeks here. So just keep an eye on that. Mayfield, 199 and 2, briefly left and came back. We talked about Mike Evans was great. Rachaad White had a decent game here, 110 total yards. Pittman, 10 catches for 107, his second 100-yard game of the season. So that's nice. Like we said before, Josh Downs, 13 targets, which is huge. It's Tampa Bay. I cannot believe how bad the Tampa Bay defense has gotten over the past like month, because they're pretty strong to start and the roster is good, but they're playing like garbage right now. And you just let Gardner Minshew carve you up. So the Bucs are looking more and more like someone I want to start my players against on a week-to-week basis.
I completely agree. And also just point out, the Colts really did make a commitment early on to passing the ball. And it was even kind of noted. So if they have an advantage against the secondary, they're going to pass the ball. And Josh Downs, man, Pittman is the guy, but Josh Downs is a big focal point of the offense. 13 targets. You got to pay attention to it. Carolina is at Tampa Bay. Indianapolis is at Tennessee. So those might be some matchups you might want to get in on. The Giants, they beat the Patriots 10-7. Why do we watch? Why do we even pay attention?
Here, I got something for you. Jalen Hyatt at his first 100-yard game, 6 targets, 5 catches, 109 yards. It's also his first NFL game with more than 3 receptions. So Hyatt is a good player. If they are going to dedicate getting the ball to him, this is why they drafted him. They should have done this earlier in the season. It's way better than Darius Slayton. He was lighting up camp. I don't know why he didn't get more action, but now that they're finally throwing him the ball, and this is what you need for a guy like DeVito too. You need a guy that can make a play with the ball in his hands. So, they only won because New England is miserable and it feels like they're tanking. I don't like to say that about most teams because people throw it around all the time. Tank.
Yeah.
I don't know. Feels like it. DeVito, 191 yards and a fumble. Not good. 26 yards receiving for Wandale. Hodgins got their 1 touchdown. Barkley had his lowest yard total all season in this game. Demario Douglas was okay, but got hurt. Mac Jones got benched. In comes Zappi. So Ramondre Stevenson and Jalen Hyatt are like the only 2 players that had good games here. 98 yards and a score for Stevenson on the ground. And he had 5 catches, 2 for 9 yards. So he went over 100 yards total and got a touchdown. Everybody else is awful.
Yeah, but I would say DeMario is someone you can pay attention to every single week because he will get the targets. It's just like it is disconcerting that like he could only muster up under 50 yards against the Giants. So what's it going to be against like good teams? So,
right.
But he's on the docket, and Stevenson is on the docket for whatever quarterback they decide to put out. God knows what they're going to do next week. If they could, they would probably put their money down to go pick up a college. If they could throw all the money down, they would go pick up some college quarterback right now, just straight from college. Friends, would tell you guys that if you are in need of new tires for your car, Discount Tire is your go-to. They've got exceptional service, and you can get 30% shorter average wait time when you buy and book online at discounttire.com. They have this really cool feature called Treadwell, which is an online tire buying guide that gives you transparency on tire performance, as well as personalized recommendations based on your location and driving habits. Discount Tire is also the largest independent tire retailer in the country, so it has the biggest selection of tires and wheels. And here's the pro tip from the experts at Discount Tire. You can prevent wear and boost gas mileage by keeping your tires properly inflated. Tire pressure supports the weight of your vehicle and is more important to check for safety. So if it has been over a month since you last checked your tire pressure, stop by one of their local stores for a free tire safety and air pressure check. Discount Tire, let's get you taken care of.
I've never not bought a tire from Discount Tire. Every single tire I've ever bought in my life has been from Discount Tire.
Yeah, I think, actually not even a weird thing, but I just had an issue. Like I told you guys like 2 weeks ago or last week, I need new tires. I had one like an issue like 2 months ago with a tire thing. And it was like a nail in there, and they were able to seal it up for me. And they just said, yep, you're going to want to take care of this pretty soon, but don't worry about it today. And I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah, Discount Tire. I know it's everywhere, and I've got tires here too, and that's exactly where I went. They're all over the place, but I know, especially in Arizona, I always bought my tires there. You get the guarantee, you get everything. It's great.
Look at you. Look at that salesman. All right. Denver, they beat Cleveland 29-12. Blah.
Yeah,
that's all I got. Blah.
What else do you say here? I mean, we know what we're doing with our Denver players, right? Like it's Sutton is startable. Russell Wilson is in Superflex, and Javonte. And if you're desperate, maybe P. Ryan will score a touchdown. He did today. So, that's it. You can't start Judy. I mean, Judy's doing nothing. Troutman, I guess, scored, so he's okay.
He's not startable.
He's not really startable. So, yeah, it's Javonte, it's Sutton, and that's pretty much it. And that's what we had here. Wilson, 134 yards and a touchdown. He also ran one in. Sutton, 6 targets, only 3 catches for 61 yards. Mims is trying 24 yards here, a couple yards rushing as well. Judy, 2 catches for 11 yards. He's just not good. So, but on the Cleveland side, it is bad. I mean, Jerome Ford, for what he did today, like, you might put this down as one of the better performances of the year. Because they had nothing.
I was terrified. He had 1 carry for like 4 yards in the first quarter. I had this little parlay together, Rashad White and Jerome Ford rushing yards. I parlayed them and I was like, we're done. Jerome Ford's going to kill me. But then he broke out. He had this first 3 carries. He had like 34 yards and, he was making stuff happen, and he did the 60 or the 59 yards on 9 carries.
Yeah. So
65 on 9.
Yeah, 65 on 9, and then 4 catches for 14 yards. I mean, they had nothing. And Njoku, good Lord, I saw another enormous David Njoku drop.
I saw it too.
Dropping the ball like crazy. He has the 2nd worst hands in the NFL behind Deontay Johnson.
You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Vernon Davis. Like, I'm a 49er fan. Vernon Davis was this big physical freak where, like, if you got him in open space, he'd go. They have the same body type and they have the exact same brick hands. It's just like awful, awful hands.
Yeah, it just was so bad. So, I mean, they're going to go back to Walker, I guess. Cooper left with the injury. So, I mean, it's Ford and Njoku. That's it. That's all you can start for Cleveland right now. It's rough in the streets there.
Denver's got Houston and Cleveland has got the Rams. So take that for what it is for next week. Speaking of the Rams, they beat the Arizona Cardinals 37-14. It was all Kyren. I'm stupid. It was no thanks to Puka and Cooper Kupp, though.
Yeah, Cooper banged up his ankle again. They said, look, even if you twist it can't get worse. So I guess that's a benefit, but so he should be back next week. But 5 targets, 3 catches, 18 yards, no good. Nakua 4 for 27, but they just didn't need to do anything. The Rams got up quick and then leaned on the Cardinals. That's it. It was a terrible game from the Cardinals. You'd think that would have gotten us a little bit more from Arizona. I mean, James Conner had 32 total yards on 10 touches. Your game is not going well when you give James Conner only 10 touches. 45 attempts for Kyler Murray. He ran one in. He had 256 yards. Marquise Brown got it going back together. 12 targets, 6 catches, 88 yards. That was nice. McBride had a decent game, 7 for 60. But other than that, I mean, Greg Dortch scored the touchdown here, so that doesn't help anybody.
Man, I think a
bad game.
I think, like, I just couldn't evaluate this game. I think I might have been wrong about everything. Like, I had some good stuff this week.
Your process behind Kyren Williams is not wrong. Look,
no, but I'm talking all of them as we're talking out. I also was on the live stream being like, Marquise Brown is to me as Christian Watson is with the Packers. Like,
well, Watson went off this week too.
I know, but my point was like, you'll never start him when it matters, and then he'll do something on your bench, and then you'll start him and he'll screw you. So, like, he's just Christian Watson to me.
Yeah,
he goes off and I'm like, hey, Cooper Kupp and Puka, they stink. It was just, this was like the bizarro world, like the Stranger Things, the upside down for me was this game. Like, just everything I said was a fade in this game.
Well, I mean, like I said, your thing with Kyren Williams, dude's coming off missing multiple weeks, and they're playing a bad opponent. You think they're going to get up fairly quick and then run the other guys. That was my thought too. So, but he had an enormous game. Some other good games for the Cardinals receivers, which is probably what we're to expect. Cardinals defense is bad, so James Conner's value is dropping. They're going to have to pass every single game. So guys like McBride and Marquise Brown and Kyler are going to start to climb a little bit more while Conner moves down. I love Conner, and he should be the first option. That's what you want to do if you're the Cardinals, but the defense is so bad. The other teams score so quickly, and they have to play catch up. That's just the nature of the beast for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, and unfortunately, guys like Kyren and even Puka and a host of those guys and Marquise Brown were very confusing starts. And if you want to lower some of the confusion by not listening to me, but listening to the most powerful fantasy tool on the planet, My Playbook's Autopilot tool, you can do that. Autopilot makes it easy to manage your team's lineup. It'll give you suggested lineup changes. It'll swap inactive players, which I love, and the full autopilot mode. This has been my suggestion for a long time. Do the full autopilot mode because it creates an optimized lineup for you, and then you make your adjustments off of it. Use autopilot at fantasypros.com/myplaybook or on the Fantasy Football My Playbook app. Do it today. fantasypros.com/myplaybook. All right, just a couple more games here. We have Kansas City, who beat the Rams 31-17. That one looked a little dicey early on. Definitely wasn't exactly what we thought, but the Chiefs, they just came pounding out towards the end. And I've been screwed. One thing I did get. Now we can get off of me being a big dumb idiot and come back to me being incredibly smart about Rashee Rice, a genius, on how I've been talking up Rashee Rice. And he went off on this game, going over 100 yards and scoring a touchdown.
10 targets too, led the Chiefs in targets, 10 targets, 8 catches, 170 yards and a touchdown. And look, after Marquise Valdes-Scantling drops the ball last week, you go, let's never give the ball to him again. He had 1 catch for -1 yard in this game. Let's just put our young guys out there and let them do it. And that's what Rice did here. Obviously, Kelsey was huge. Pacheco scored 2 touchdowns. Raiders defense is bad. The Raiders are playing more inspired football now that Josh McDaniels is gone. It feels like, I guess, less of a prison there, whatever. So they are playing harder and better. We had good stat lines. O'Connell wasn't terrible. 23 of 33, 249, and a touchdown. So not awful for him, I think. No, he didn't lose a fumble. Jacobs was over 110 yards on the ground. Meyer scored a touchdown. Devontae was fine, 7 for 5 for 73. So they are playing better. And I would say that after this week against a tough Chiefs defense, I'll call the majority of the Raiders offense trustable because they did it against a tough defense. Before they had played like both New York teams with backup quarterbacks, so I wasn't really putting too much.
So you're just
into
saying
that.
Like Adams, Myers, Jacobs, you're good to go.
Yeah, I think you're good to go with those guys. Whereas a couple weeks ago, when you Aiden O'Connell and they've been playing bad, you weren't sure. Now I think they're all fine and startable.
We had a lot of Devontae Adams questions this morning on the live stream on Fantasy Pros. Remember, 2 hours pregame coverage every Sunday we got on the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. And luckily, I did stick with Devontae Adams on those, but there were a lot of questions, people really concerned, like, okay, where's this going, and wanting to put some other guys in.
Moving forward, Welsh, Tank Dell or Devontae Adams?
It's a great question.
I think I would go this morning.
I think I go Tank.
Honestly, that's what I said too, and he scored. So, but they did. It would have been way better if they didn't wipe that 62-yarder off. Come on.
Yep, would have been pretty nice, but I'll go with Tank. All right, final up here was the game we mentioned just a little bit ago. This was Philly beating Buffalo in overtime. Jalen Hurts touchdown right at the end. I think we had an A.J. Brown touchdown. I think we had a Devontae Smith touchdown.
Everybody scored. You get a score. You get a score.
It was a wild, weird, wet, rainy game that ended up putting up over 70 points. So what takeaway you want to throw at us?
I mean, this is the normal stuff here. I mean, you're not starting Zacchaeus, so whatever. Hurts was amazing. 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing. Swift had over 80 yards on the ground against a tough defense. Smith and A.J. Brown both scored. Over 100 yards for the Slim Reaper, Devontae Smith.
Diggs got shut down, by the way. I want to point out, like, this was the matchup of matchups. I think it was one of the best.
He was shut down, but then he scored late, 11 targets, 6 catches, 74 yards, and he did score. Gabe Davis also over 100 yards and scored. Josh Allen, 2 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground. James Cook dropped a touchdown. I don't know if you saw that. It was in his hands, nothing but green in front of him, and he just flat out dropped it. But he had right around, I think it was actually exactly 100 yards total. So, I mean, just a solid game for everyone involved, and it was a fun game that went into overtime as well. But I don't think we're making wholesale changes on our Eagles and Bills opinions here.
No, there you go. That is your Week 12 rewind with the Fantasy Impact vibe to it, getting you guys set up with everything you need to get into for this week. We are about to go in. Well, I think it just kicked off. We got Sunday Night Football here on the live stream. All you podcasters, you know what's up. Do want to remind a couple things here. We had our Trophy Smack winner. Chris is in the Chris Latimer. Just make sure you reach out to the team, get you set up with that awesome trophy from Trophy Smack. Those guys are rock stars. And this week, this will be your opportunity to pick up a Jonathan Taylor autographed jersey. All you got to do is subscribe to the YouTube channel and comment on videos. That's the thing. We got lots of videos for you to comment on. So get in and get your entry set, and hopefully you guys can win, and love to get you guys in the chat. That's going to do it. Full schedule coming up this week, so make sure you're tuned in, whether it is on the YouTube channel or on the podcast. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Find Bogman on Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm at Is It The Welsh. You guys have a fantastic rest of your week 12, and we will talk to you again later this week right here on Fantasy Pros. Peace, friends.
So yeah.
Peace.